This is section 1C. What is in the PDG Cycle 43 RFP? This is the last section in Module 1, getting ready to write the grant proposal. There is key information specific to the PDG Cycle 43 RFPs. These grants help the State Council reach its goals. The State Council has 6 goal areas: self-advocacy, employment, housing, health and safety, early intervention, education, transition and post-secondary education, and formal and informal community supports. However, this RFP is based on regional goals and objectives. California has 13 state council regions, and each region has different priority goals and objectives. Therefore, each region has a separate RFP. Make sure you download the RFP for your region. If you don't know your region, you can find out by checking the regional offices on the State Council website, www.scdd.ca.gov. Your proposal must address the goals and objectives for your region. Proposals must be received by 5 p.m. on May 20th, 2020. Each region can fund up to $20,000 total. This may fund one or more grants in the region. Do not submit a budget larger than $20,000. Submit the proposal correctly. The font is Arial 14 point, and there must be 1-inch margins. Do not use a different font size, or margin size. Send one hard copy. Make sure the proposal is complete and all the sections are there. Use binder clips or paper clips only. Do not staple any portion of the proposal. Do not use 3-hole punch paper, and do not put the proposal in a binder. You can send through the mail or by express delivery, like FedEx or UPS. If you are sending through the mail, require a signature, certified mail. Also allow enough time to your proposal to get to the State Council. Proposals will only be accepted if they arrive at the State Council by 5 p.m. on May 20th, 2020. Proposals received after that date won't be accepted, even if the postmark says they were mailed in plenty of time. Do not send electronically and do not fax. The PDG Cycle 43 RFP contains many sections, including the table of contents, introduction, essential criteria for all proposals, what completed proposals must include, and the program and evaluation process. Allowable and not allowable PDG grant costs, PDG proposal requirements and timeline, funding of projects, and notice of intent to award contracts and protests. Other terms and conditions, reporting requirements, project change, and restrictions on outside employment of state employees. We will go over each of the sections. The table of contents. The RFP contents are outlined in the table of contents. Although this seems obvious, using the table of contents can save you time and energy flipping backwards and forwards through the RFP. Some people also like to tab the RFP so they can find each section easily. In the case of the Program Development Cycle 43 grants, the RFP includes an introduction which provides information about the State Council, the laws that govern the State Council and the Program Development grants. The introduction also includes the State Council State Plan and their priorities and activities, and it tells you where you can find more information. The rest of the RFP is contained in the section titled Contents of the Proposal Package. This section tells you all the parts of the proposal package. Read these sections carefully. Your proposal will not be funded if it doesn't meet the requirements. The contents include essential criteria for all proposals. This section reviews important things a proposal must address to be considered, including that it meet the State Council's state plan. Even if you have a wonderful idea, if it isn't related to the State Council's goals and objectives, it won't be funded. Your proposal must address the goals and objectives for your region. It must serve people who meet the federal definition of intellectual developmental disability. The federal definition is a little different than California's definition. Here is where you can find the federal definition. Proposals cannot ignore or violate any federal, state, and local laws and regulations that apply. For example, the Lanterman Act, state, or IDEA, federal. Your proposal must be complete and have all the attachments. Completed proposals must include the following elements. This is a very important section. It tells you all the parts of the proposal. We will go over each of these areas in upcoming modules, and it includes the cover letter, Module 5, project data sheet, also Module 5, project narrative, Module 2, outcome measures and evaluation, Module 3, budget detail worksheet, Module 4, and the other required attachments, Module 5. Please review this section carefully and use the project checklist. Program evaluation and selection process. This section says how the proposals are reviewed and scored. Proposals will go through 2 levels of evaluation. There's an illustration that lists the 2 levels, reading from left to right, administrative review, evaluation panel. Administrative review. Proposals are reviewed to see if they are complete and whether they were submitted on time. Incomplete and/or late proposals will not go on to the next level of review. Evaluation panel. The remaining proposals will be read by a group of people, a panel. The panel will read and score the proposals. The proposals are scored on several factors. Each factor is given a certain possible number of points. The total number of points possible is 100. Read the scoring criteria carefully. This will give you an idea of what the State Council is looking for. Make sure you cover everything that is covered in the criteria. Allowable and non-allowable PDG grant costs. This section covers what the grant can and cannot pay for. Do not include non-allowable items in your budget. This section also tells you the maximum indirect cost you can include in your budget. Indirect costs are the expenses needed to keep an organization running. Things like rent, general administration, and equipment. Your indirect costs can't be more than 10% of your total budget. This is gone over in greater detail in the budget module. RFP proposal requirements and timeline. This section tells you what the proposal must include, the requirements, and important dates, the timeline. Read this section carefully. Remember, your proposal won't be considered if it doesn't meet the requirements or is turned in late. Funding of projects. This section tells you about the project funding, including the availability of funds, that the State Council doesn't pay for the cost of preparing the proposal or writing it, how funded projects will receive their funds, and reporting requirements. Notice of intent to award contracts and protests. This section tells you how the final decision of which projects to fund will be made. An initial list of projects will be published by July 14, 2020. Projects that weren't funded can protest during a 10-day period, July 15th through 25th, 2020, and the final list of funded programs will be available on July 28th, 2020. Other terms and conditions. Terms refers to the start and end dates of the project, October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021. There is a possibility that the grant may extend for a second year. If this happens, the State Council will tell projects at least by July 31st, 2021. Conditions refers to other important information, including patents and copyrights. Anything produced by this project is owned by the State Council. This includes things like curricula, brochures, booklets, and other materials. Termination of the contract. The contract may be ended, even if the project didn't do anything wrong. If this happens, the project will receive at least 30 days' notice. If the contract is terminated, any equipment purchased through the project must be returned to the State Council. Subcontracts. Projects can have subcontractors. This means they can use another person or organization with particular skills or knowledge to do some of the work. If they do this, they must let the State Council know. Also, the project is responsible for the quality of the work provided by the subcontractor. Insurance requirements. Any group applying for State Council Cycle 43 funding must have liability insurance, and they must provide the State Council with proof of the insurance. Reporting requirements. This section covers how the project will report their progress and also how they will bill the State Council. It includes bi-monthly reporting and what should be included in the report, bi-monthly invoices and what needs to be included, and the final report, which is due 30 days after the project end, and what to include in the final report. Project change. This section covers what to do if there is any change in the project. Projects must notify the State Council of any changes. It is also important to note that the budget can't be increased under any circumstances. That the evaluation of the project must meet the standards of the State Council. Any software used must not violate copyright laws. This means you can't use the software illegally. For example, can't make copies, can't use on more computers than allowed. Each project will also be evaluated by the State Council within 60 days of the end of the project. Restrictions on outside employment of state employees. This section says you can't hire or subcontract with people who are employed by the state of California. This includes current employees and former employees who stopped working for the state less than 12 months ago. What if I have questions? It's important to ask any questions you have. You can submit your questions either in writing or during the question period of the pre-bidders conference. The questions will not be answered individually. All questions and answers will be posted as an addendum on the Cal eProcurement website, caleprocure.gov. www.ca.gov/pages/index.aspx. This information will be posted ongoing until May 6, 2020. The State Council will not take questions by phone. You can submit questions by email. Send them to christy.allensworth@scdd.ca.gov. Participate in the Pre-Bidders Conference. The Pre-Bidders Conference, which will be online, will go over the application and ask for any questions people have about the grant or clarifying information about the application process. Even if you don't have questions, it's a good idea to read the question and answers document. It may provide information you didn't even think of. This ends Module 1 of How to Prepare a Grant Proposal to the California State Council on Developmental Disabilities. Please proceed to Module 2, the Project Narrative.